Welcome to Slow Home Studio. Too many people live in badly designed houses, and we want to change that.
Today is Friday, May 20th, and we thought that we would spend a little bit more time discussing Nancy and Sam's house in Pennsylvania, and this time from a bit of a historical perspective. Their house is a very good example of early modern architecture, and we thought we would look at some other examples from the same era.
That's right. I think this is going to be interesting. So just to recap, Phil Halleck was the original architect. This is some of his drawings, one of his houses. This is Nancy and Sam's house. This is their whole floor plan. Yeah. We didn't really talk about this before in any of the segments. We've been focusing on this little piece right here, but it's actually part of a much larger house that has bedrooms and the living room that we know.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about the floor plan when you look at it is a couple things. First of all is the extension of the house out into the landscape. You can clearly see how it goes out into the yard of the house. And then the second thing that you can notice is the real strong linear organization of the circulation.
Yeah. Exactly, and that actually takes us to our historical precedents. It takes us to Frank Lloyd Wright and the idea of the Usonian house. This was something that Frank Lloyd Wright started in 1936 and was basically a series of houses, an idea of a housing for everybody. This is what was his ideal of what he thought North American housing should be. And he worked very hard on this. And there were a number of houses that were built. Not all of them were quite as reasonably priced as maybe he had hoped, but as typologies they were very interesting. We're going to talk about three of them very quickly and show you how they relate back to Nancy and Sam's house. So this is the Jacobs house. There it is. We can see it, and you can notice how it extends out into the landscape.
So this is
like
from
that.
1936, just to put it
in and around there.
Context.
Yeah. And so this is the floor plan. And we can see it, again, very similar to Nancy and Sam's house. In particular, we've got that very small kind of utility. The kitchen was a utility space.
Yeah, and they're always consolidated. It's really interesting that the kitchen and the bathroom are consolidated together, because that was the same case in Nancy and Sam's house. The laundry, kitchen, and powder room were all in one block, and then that allows the other spaces to kind of flow around it.
That's right. So we've got the entry. We're coming into this big living room space that goes out onto the terrace. The dining room is part of the circulation, and you're right, the kitchen is this place that you're not really supposed to spend too much time in. There's a picture of the interior of the Jacobs house. Now we're going to move to the Zimmermann House. Another example, this is another one of those ones where it's really long coming into the entry, going to the garden, living room, out to the dining room that this time goes out to the terrace, and then that really small workspace.
The other thing too that's important to note is about the parking. The parking was always an outdoor car park, and it was covered by the roof of the house to extend the line of the house, and make it look like it's going into the landscape.
Which is what Nancy and Sam's house had as well. So we can see that there in more detail, and again, really tight little kitchen. And so as changes in expectations for housing moved along, we have this need to try to have a bigger kitchen. So actually that is the picture of the kitchen in the Zimmermann house. It actually has some charm because it's back. Nobody's wrecked it with a 1980s edition, but we can really see the difference between the public spaces and the private spaces.
Yeah, very clear that the kitchen was a place for work and not part of your daily functioning in the house, and not part of the relationship.
Then the last house is the Rosenbaum House, which is quite a famous Usonian house. Here we can see again the same kind of planning. This is the detail of that kitchen again right here. So we've got the small kitchen, a small utility, laundry out into
the one thing that I think is really interesting to note is the line of enclosure between the living room and the terrace, and the way that the architect has drawn it. The flooring of the living room actually extends to the outside, and they're trying to blur that line between inside and outside. So again, getting that extension out into the landscape.
And there we see that, and you can see that extension out. So that's some of the historical background and context for Nancy and Sam's house. I hope you found that interesting. On Tuesday, we're going to be talking about our solution for their project. We're actually not going to be having a new episode on Monday because it's a holiday, long weekend in Canada.
See you Tuesday.
Bye.